Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. The title of my talk today was You Are Buddha. And this is based on an essay that I wrote a few years back for Dharma Field newsletter. And anyway, I'll present this and we can talk about it later if you'd like. But throughout his teaching career, Katagiri Roshi taught very frequently, you are Buddha, all beings are Buddha. At first no one understood, but eventually a few people did. At his last Dharma talk before he died of cancer, he was very weak and had to be helped to sit down on his cushion. But when he spoke, he gave a very powerful lecture. He knew that it was his last talk, so he gave it everything he had. And in this talk, he very strongly emphasized, you are Buddha. The Zen teacher, Suzuki Roshi, who founded the San Francisco Zen Center, also pointed this out. He would say to his students, when I look at you, I see you all as perfect Buddhas. However, Suzuki Roshi would go on to say, I see you all as perfect Buddhas until you open your mouths to say something. Suzuki Roshi saw very clearly that our true nature was the Buddha nature, yet it was also clear to him that we were ignorant of our true nature. Buddha is the reality of awakeness, or Buddha nature, which is the true self, the true life, the true nature of each being. It is the subjectless, objectless awakeness, which is being directly experienced by all beings now. The historical Buddha, who lived in India approximately 2,500 years ago, was a person who profoundly realized this reality of awakeness, or Buddha nature. He clearly saw that this reality was his true self. He realized that the seemingly separate individual that he seemed to be was an empty, illusory manifestation of the true self, or Buddha nature. He realized this was true for all the seemingly separate beings and phenomena in the universe. The reality of awakeness, or Buddha, is the beginningless, endless, boundless, all-inclusive reality of here and now. This is the reality that is directly experienced here and now. Different terms are used to point to this reality. I'll mention some of them. Totality, wholeness, the whole universe, Dharma, truth, vastness, the true self, true life, supreme enlightenment, the one Buddha mind, the perfection of wisdom, freedom and peace, and life of all beings. These are different terms which point to this reality. They don't describe it, they just point to it. They give us helpful suggestions in our investigation of direct here now experience and help us in realizing what our actual experience is. But it's not a good idea to try and grasp ideas of this. Just see these terms as pointers and don't feel that they're definitions. They're just pointers to help us realize what our true life is. This reality of awakeness, which is our true life, is sometimes described as being wondrous and inconceivable. It is described in this way because it cannot be objectified or conceptually grasped. No matter how much we speak about it or write about it, it cannot be pinned down or objectified or explained or packaged into a conceptual description. Nevertheless, it is clear and obvious. It is being directly experienced now, and everything is a manifestation of it. This is how it is clear and obvious. The fact that it's being directly experienced now, and everything is a manifestation of it. It cannot be hidden. Dharma teaching is pointing to this reality of awakeness or Buddha nature, which cannot be explained or objectified, and yet which cannot be hidden. This reality of awakeness or Buddha nature, which is clear and obvious, is usually ignored or overlooked. It is ignored by getting caught up in the belief in separation of self and other, and the belief in a dualistically structured reality. Reality is being ignored when we're caught up in these beliefs and respond and act based on these beliefs. We are profoundly taken in by these beliefs in many ways. We have many beliefs or assumptions about ourselves, others, and the nature of reality, and we live our lives based on these beliefs. This is the ignorance by which our Buddhahood is ignored. We don't try to get rid of beliefs. We don't try to get rid of the ignoring or ignorance. We don't try to get rid of the emotional responses or desires and patterns of behavior based on this ignorance. Instead, we're just aware of them. Eventually, these can be seen as empty, illusory manifestations of the true self or Buddha nature. Then they cease to be problems. Then they can be seen as helpful pointers, showing us how we are interpreting reality, how we are responding to it, how we are getting stuck, and how we can be released. And this practice of awakeness, the ways in which the true self is ignored, can eventually be seen through, and they drop away by themselves. Suzuki Roshi used to say, since you are Buddha, you must be Buddha. That is our practice. Our practice is to be the Buddhas that we are. Since we are Buddha, our practice is to be Buddha. In a lecture he gave at the San Francisco Zen Center in 1968, he said, when it is hot, you should be hot Buddha. When it is cold, you should be cold Buddha. Suzuki Roshi is telling us to fully live the directly experienced reality of here and now in each situation as it is manifesting here and now. You should wholeheartedly live out the circumstances of each here now moment. This is to live as we truly are. This is to live as the Buddhas that we are. In each situation we encounter, when it's hot, when it's cold, or whatever the situation is, our practice is to live as the Buddha that we truly are. Suzuki Roshi went on to say that each individual, each thing, each event, each situation, each experience is Buddha. Each thought, each feeling, each emotion, each desire, each perception, each state of consciousness is Buddha. When you realize that you are Buddha and understand everything as an unfolding of the truth or Buddha, then whatever you experience is the actual teaching of Buddha, and whatever you do is the actual practice of Buddha. Usually people practice for a long time, believing that it is a separate ego self who is carrying out this practice. With continued practice, with help from a teacher, this belief can eventually be seen through. People usually begin practice with the belief that after a long time, they will eventually attain enlightenment. But supreme enlightenment, or Buddha nature, is being directly experienced now. It's not a matter of practicing for a long time and eventually attaining enlightenment. Most people starting out in this practice believe that practice is a means to attain enlightenment. They believe practice and enlightenment have a dualistic before and after, means and end relationship. But with continued practice, this belief can eventually be seen through. It becomes clear that enlightenment, or Buddha, or truth, or Buddha nature is what we are, and that practice and enlightenment are one. Some questions might arise, such as who practices, who eventually sees, and what is eventually seen, and how long is eventually. These are some questions that might come up when we hear this teaching. And these are interesting questions, but don't try to figure out or conceptually grasp particular answers. Whatever concepts or beliefs we have about reality are just limited views. It is by holding to these beliefs and limited views about reality that the actual reality, Buddha nature, is overlooked. So just live a life of wide open awakeness and curiosity, as if we are discovering who we are and what our experience is for the first time. Just be aware to directly experience reality now, here and now. Just be awake to directly experience reality here and now without being taken in by beliefs and limited views. If we believe there is a separate self who practices and, in quotes, eventually sees, and that there is a separate reality that is, in quotes, eventually seen, then the directly experienced true self or Buddha is being ignored. We're so caught up in our views, we don't realize what our true life is. We get taken in by our ideas about what our life and overlook the actual direct experience of what our life is. The true self manifests itself in such a way as to bring about the appearance of separation of self and others, and the appearance of duration in time and extension in space. There seem to be separate beings, times, places, and events to which names, labels, personal pronouns, and conceptual categories can be applied. In accordance with how things appear to be, and in accordance with conventional speech, we use names, labels, personal pronouns, and conceptual categories. We need to function and communicate in the conventional, seemingly dualistic world, where there seems to be separation of self and others, without being taken in by the belief that there actually is a separation. And we need to function in this reality where we're living one inseparable life with all beings without being taken in by an idea of oneness or any other idea. It's by being taken in by our ideas that we overlook this reality that is being directly experienced and lived here and now. When we can let go of our ideas and let go of our beliefs about what experience is and fully live the life that's being directly experienced now, then we can be truly helpful to ourselves and all the seemingly separate beings that we meet. In this practice of awakeness, it can eventually be seen that all beings are mutually assisting each other. All beings are functioning together inseparably, influencing each other and supporting each other. This is a reality in which all beings are mutually assisting each other. And these are not separate beings, even though it looks like a reality of separate beings. If these beings, these seemingly separate beings, actually were separate beings, this life of mutual assistance would not be possible. And this is clearly seen. A life of compassion, joy, and fearlessness opens up to us, and we can live as the great Buddhas that we are. So, do you have any thing you'd like to say about this? Any questions or comments that you have about this? Please feel free to ask questions if you'd like.
Hi, Norm. Good to see you.
Oh, hi. Hi, Patrick.
That one of the last statements you made there, a life of compassion, joy, and fearlessness can arise. The fearlessness aspect of that, is it that it's the dropping away of any protection of a separate self, and that the dropping away of that ego that creates that sense of fear of them and me, or my things and their things, or loss of, okay. Can you speak to that? Yeah, thank you.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. It's in this way of life, it can be seen that we're being supported by all beings. And it can be seen that this support is always going on. It can be seen that ultimately we can't find things apart from us, separated out from us, that could that attack us and hurt us. When we see that we're living this one life with all beings, and that we're being supported by all beings, then we can have great sense of compassion for those beings who are living inseparably from us and who are helping us. And we can let go of the fear we have of being attacked by something outside of our life. And there can be a dropping away of fear and dropping away of living our life based on an egocentric attitude where we try to emphasize our own well-being ahead of the well-being of others. There's a very strong tendency for us to do this. These attitudes based on selfishness and being separate from others is very deeply rooted. But if we really see that we're living one life with all beings, then very naturally we want to try and help all beings. When we're helping all beings, we're taking care of our own life as well as the life of others. So this is an opportunity for us to realize what our life is. Not to get an idea about it, but to really realize this reality that's being directly experienced now, and in which we and all beings are living inseparably and functioning together, helping each other, and mutually supporting each other and assisting each other. This can be directly realized in our practice, not realized as something that can be seen objectively or understood conceptually, but directly realized that our life is going on in this way. And when this is seen, then it becomes evident that we need to look out for all beings, not just our own life. This has to be a way of life in which we're concerned about the welfare of others. The others are inseparable from us. We have to take care of others with the realization that when we help them, we're helping ourselves. We have to have deep respect for others and deep gratitude to others. We can't force this attitude or try to make ourselves believe that. It's about looking directly at our actual experience, and we can realize directly what this life is and what this reality is and what our practice is. Our practice is to fully live this life, to fully participate in this reality where all beings are mutually helping each other. That's how we can help all beings, by fully participating in this life of all beings, which is our true life. Did you want to ask some more, Patrick? That was a good question.
Oh, no, that was very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Jed. Hi, Kate.
Hi, Dharma. I'm trying to recall the phrase you used a little earlier. I mean, you used several terms to speak of true nature. And I was just wondering if you had any comments in terms of this maybe subtle tendency that we have to try to find true nature, or, you know, maybe in meditation that we are looking for a certain type of feeling, or you know, just insight or whatever it might be. But it sounds like what you're saying is we're actually overlooking reality.
When we try to grasp some idea of it, and then we're overlooking the actual reality. We're trying to get an idea of it rather than being directly aware of it.
Could you give maybe a little instruction as kind of like a meditation instruction in terms of this topic? And what would you say to a practitioner, you know, if we find ourselves kind of looking for something else? What would be a kind of instruction there?
Well, when we see that we're caught up in our ideas and beliefs and living our life based on our ideas and beliefs rather than living our life based on awareness to and awakeness to actual direct experience, we need to see that. And in our practice, we continually resume the practice of being aware here and now. And in that practice, we can let go of the ideas and beliefs that we're attached to and resume the practice of directly living this reality, which is our true life. So it's the Zen teacher Uchiyama Roshi used to use the term opening the hand of thought. When we find ourselves grasping at our ideas and beliefs and thoughts and assumptions about what our life is and living our life based on them rather than paying attention to our actual direct experience, just be aware of that. Just acknowledge that and allow that to drop away and resume the practice of being awake to here and now reality without getting caught up in our ideas about it. So I thought his teaching about opening the hand of thought was a very helpful teaching that points to what this way of life is.
Yes. Thanks, Norm.
Well, thank you, Jed. Yeah.
And the way you speak of it is just so simple and down to earth. It's like you don't have to remember much.
No,
It's very straightforward. So yeah,
those are the teachings I like best.
yeah. No, it's beautiful in its simplicity. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jed. Oh, yes. Hi, how you doing, Vincent?
I'm doing good, Norm. This is almost as good as being there. Almost.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
See you. All right. And I agree with, of course, Jed. This is very beautiful teaching, and very simple. Doesn't mean simplistic, but very simple and absolutely beautiful. What I'm curious. In the one life we're all living is the life of all beings. Also, is that it only happens once every second, and it can't be different than the way it is because of all the conditions that have happened to create this life at this moment in time. Is that
everything is
it's just the way it is, right?
Yeah.
And then I do that when I'm walking it because I try to do it continuously, but when I'm walking, when I see whether it's a beautiful flower or a hamburger wrapper that somebody's thrown out the window, I say, but this can't be any different. This is
right.
This is nature showing up, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
That's
I don't know.
that's a good point. And yeah, everything is showing up in its own unique way. As a hamburger wrapper, as a beautiful flower, but of course we take care of the flower differently than the hamburger wrapper.
Yeah, again, I catch her and say, well, I don't want that, I'm trying to avoid that unpleasant sight, but it can't be any different.
That's
Okay.
right. You're absolutely right about that. Yeah.
All right, thank you. No,
Yeah, thank you, Vince.
Norm, when I
Hi,
hear,
Mike.
hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. Pretty good.
Good. When I hear the teaching, all beings are Buddha, I feel some fear. I feel some fear of letting go of my separate ego self and seeing through it. It's like, I feel like I have to be me and I don't want to lose me. Can you talk a little bit about that?
That's right. That's a very strong tendency in everybody. Everybody is very strongly attached to the idea they have about being a separate ego self. Everybody, but in this practice, we can let ourselves see that we're caught up in that belief. And as much as we can, try to let go. We don't have to try and force ourselves to believe that we're not a separate ego self. Just allow yourself to see it directly. And again, resume the practice of living out directly experienced reality and allowing the ideas, the strong ideas, many of which are extremely strong, allow them to naturally drop away and just live this reality. again and again, come back to this and allow yourself to see it. And if you don't see it, or if you keep getting caught up in ideas of egocentricity, don't criticize yourself for it. Just continue to come back to being aware here and now, seeing how you're caught up, and just allowing it to drop away as much as you can. And without criticism.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you, Mike. Yeah, and this practice goes on endlessly. We can never say, I've completely overcome all egotism. I will never again have an egocentric thought enter my mind. Just whenever it comes up, just be aware. Be aware. Allow in that practice of awareness and awakeness just to let the strong ideas we have about what our life is to naturally drop away.
And if I feel fear, then let myself feel the fear. Just notice that and
Yeah,
come back and
feel the fear. As Suzuki Roshi says, you know, when whatever you feel, just completely live that experience, and you know, completely live that experience. Not trying to get rid of it, feeling you want to get rid of fear or get rid of the heat on a hot day. It's just completely live that experience. And that's where the true freedom is.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Norm, for your talk. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to see you. So you, you know, you'll be giving a class either online or maybe in person on Ryokan, and a lot of us have time to read these old texts, whether it's Ryokan or Dogen. Do you have anything to say, Norm, about, you know, what these old teachings can tell us now in times of, you know, uncertainty and different things going on today, and how we can maybe take some of these old teachings and make them applicable to our life today? So anything you want to say on that, Norm? Thank you.
Yeah, well, I think that these teachings are very applicable to our situation now. You know, we in this time of uncertainty, and people are fearful of getting the COVID-19 and wondering about their jobs, and just so many people are plunged into states of worry and fear, and it's quite understandable that they would feel that way. But in this way of life, we can see when we're getting caught up in those ideas that induce fearful states of mind, and causing us to panic and not think clearly. So there's a great opportunity here to let go of the ideas by which we interpret our life, and let ourselves experience the freedom of what our true life is. Of course, it seems like we don't live a life of freedom. I have my mortgage I gotta pay, I got my rent I gotta pay, I got my kids to look out for them, and there's my health, and all. You know, we see all these things that are really seem to be in jeopardy now, and we can completely panic when we see this. But it's best, if we can, to return to this practice and not ignore these appearances, and not ignore all these things, but just to return to practice with a calm mind, and try to see how we can live our life without being tossed away by all these fears that it's so easy to fall into now. So I think this practice is very, very relevant for the situation that we're in now.
Great, thank you. That was very helpful. Thank you, Norm.
Well, thank you, Matt. Hi, Jordan.
Hi, Norm. One thing I'm wondering, I've read your essay that you just spoke about several times, and listened to you again today. One thing that always keeps coming up is it seems to sometimes pull me into solipsism. And that is kind of the view that how can you know that, or that there's anyone else in the universe but yourself, right? So maybe forget about the notion of yourself, but how can you know that there's an experience other than the experience that you're having? So like the visual experience that I'm having, how can I know that there's another visual experience being had other than my visual experience, or auditory, or whatever it is? I mean, so when you just look at your direct experience, there's no evidence of anything beyond your experience. How do you deal with that?
Well, by letting go of the ideas that this is my experience. Just let yourself experience it without being caught by some belief. There's me, and then there's my visual situation, and there's the object of my seeing. The direct experience is the experience without being caught up in the ideas about it. Usually, almost always, when we experience something, we experience it with the overlay of these ideas about what the experience is. And this is a way of life about letting that drop away. Not ignoring the experience or throwing out the ideas, but just not being caught by it. And usually we are caught by it. We're very much caught by the ideas that we have about what our experience is. We're very much caught by the idea, this is my experience, it belongs only to me. We get caught by the idea of solipsism, that only I and the whole universe, but that's an idea that we attach to. The problem is in getting caught up in ideas. And we need to look very carefully at this, our tendency to get caught up in ideas, and see how profoundly we believe in the ideas that we have about what our life is. I'm not saying ideas are bad, they're very useful in functioning in conventional reality. They're very wonderful, but the problem is we're caught by it. We deeply and one-sidedly believe that reality corresponds to the ideas we have about it. We need to let ourselves directly experience that reality does not correspond to the ideas we have about it. Ideas, and these are limited views. It's impossible to encapsulate this boundless reality within limited views. We need to let ourselves see that as much as possible. But it's a very strong tendency to believe the ideas we have and believe that reality exactly corresponds to the ideas we have about it. This is why I referred to in my answer to Jed, talking about opening the hand of thought. We need to see when we're caught up in our ideas and let go of how we're caught by them and just experience directly. And we can't pin down what that direct experience is. It's not something that can be objectified. It can be packaged within a conceptual description, but it can be directly experienced. And in realizing what our actual direct experience is, there's a release from all the ways in which we overlook the actual direct experience. There can be release from the ways in which we're caught up in our ideas and beliefs about what our experience is, and really live the actual experience. Then we can use ideas without being caught by the idea that our actual life experience corresponds with these ideas. We can live a life where there seems like there are lots of separate beings without being one-sidedly caught by the idea that there actually are separate beings. And we can live a life where we're living one inseparable life with all beings without being caught by the idea of oneness. We can let go of these ideas. It's very crucial that in order to be free to see that. And again, old habits die hard. We'll find ourselves getting caught up in our ideas again and again. Just when you see that, resume the practice of being awake to actual direct experience, opening the hand of thought, letting go of our strong attachment to the ideas that we're holding to.
All right, Jordan, does that help answer your question?
Not really, but I appreciate the effort. So.
Yeah, I can't answer it. It's something that has to be directly realized. I can't, all I can do is just point. Whatever I say is just a pointer. So don't grasp anything I or anybody else says. Just see it as a pointer. Maybe that in the pointer might help. Maybe it won't. But the main thing is for you to look directly at actual experience. And to do that is to see when you're overlooking the actual direct experience and resume the practice of really living this direct experience as much as you can. I know I sound like a broken record. I wish I were able to put this more skillfully, but I think you hear what I'm saying.
Hello, I'm dialing in from England. This is my first attempt at Dharma Field, so please be kind to me. Am I right in thinking that what you're saying is that when we lose sight of our direct experience, one of the worst things that we can do is to think. In other words, our thoughts almost a negative impact on our ability to directly experience what's going on.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part of what you said. I'm sorry.
Am I right in thinking that perhaps thought and overthinking things is something that gets in the way of our direct experience of the moment?
Well, it's if we get caught up in them and we believe that reality corresponds to thoughts we have about it, then we're caught up in our thoughts and we're overlooking the actual experience. There's nothing that can stop the direct experience or hide it. This direct experience is always going on, but usually we pay attention to the ideas and beliefs and get taken in by that rather than paying attention to the actual experience. It isn't that the thoughts and beliefs block it. There's nothing that can block it, but we overlook what is being directly experienced now. So.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Ken. Thank you.
Yes, Norm. This is it's kind of like a follow-up on Jordan's question, I think. But
yeah,
Kodo Sawaki Roshi is quoted as saying that you can't exchange so much as a fart with another person.
That's right.
That's his way of putting it. So, I mean, it seems to be saying that they're separate beings. That was one thing. And then the other thing I wondered is it possible to have your essay posted on Dharma Field? The essay that you were reading from today.
Oh, I guess so.
Okay.
I guess so, yeah. I assume so. I don't know how to do it, but yeah.
But the question about, not exchanging so much as a fart with another person, that seems to suggest that maybe there are separate beings.
Well, I think he's saying that, you know, it looks like there are other separate beings with whom we can have all sorts of exchanges, that being just one of many.
Okay.
So, but if in really seeing this reality, it can be realized that you can't find somebody separate from you with whom you can have an exchange.
I see.
So even if you wanted to exchange something, no matter, not, I mean, he liked using crude examples, but, you know, whatever you want to give to somebody else, it's ultimately not a separate being that you're giving it to or exchanging with. This is a reality that looks like one where there's separate me who can give something to separate you. That's how it appears. And we function in that reality that appears that way, but without, as much as possible, without being caught by the belief that there actually is a separate me and there actually is a separate you. See, this is about not getting caught by the ideas of what we have about it. Not clinging to the idea of no separation, not clinging to the idea of separation, not clinging to the idea of oneness, or not clinging to the idea of multiplicity, or any idea we come up with.
Well, actually, I don't have a question, just a comment. First, Norm, it's good to see you. I have not
Good
seen
to see you, Michael.
And my comment was, thank you very much for your talk. I found it, well, it was a very good thing to hear in these troubling times. And so thank you.
Well, thank you.
It's good to see you virtually.
Yeah, same with you.
And it's good to see you're doing well. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Same with you, Michael.
Okay, hi. I don't know exactly how to formulate this question, but I think I heard you say, and maybe you can expound on it or correct me, that the distractions or the thoughts or the circumstances that come up in our lives that we can look at are also part of the whole experience.
Right. Yeah, they're manifestations of Buddha nature also.
Right. And I think I finally heard that from you for the first time. I mean, I heard that from someone for the first time, and I thank you for it. Because it seems very easy for me to think to myself, oh my goodness, here's my same reaction to this situation, or here's my same thought coming up again, which then leads to recriminations and blaming myself and getting further and further away from just being quiet.
Yeah.
And so I, for the first time, had a thought that, well, maybe these are all things to be grateful for. And I wondered if you could talk about gratitude a little bit.
Yeah, everything is your life manifested as that thing. It's showing you how your life is unfolding. It can show you how you're getting caught in certain ways. It can show you how you can let go. Everything is it's your life at the moment it's experience. It's your life, which is the life of all beings. This is life of all beings showing up to let you see this life of all beings, which is your life, which is the life of all beings. It's perfectly expressing itself. There's nothing missing in what manifests here now. So everything is a wonderful teaching if we see it, if we see it in that way. But if we think, oh gosh, here comes that horrible emotion again. I hate that emotion. I want to get rid of it. I don't want to ever experience that emotion again. You know, we're not allowing ourselves to be available to what this universal life is offering us at that moment. It's always offering us an opportunity to see how the universe is unfolding. And our experience is always a complete expression of totality. I don't know.
Thank you.
It sounds pretty far out, I know.
No, thank you very much.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for your question. Yes, hi, Ken.
I have a follow-up question about the exchange between people that you discussed a moment ago. Sometimes when you talk, you like to talk about old television shows like the Flintstones or the
Oh, yeah.
Beverly Hillbillies. Those don't go unnoticed. And
Thank you.
even
Thank you.
I'm in Massachusetts, but I've heard them all. So when we say that it's impossible for someone to exchange anything with another person, if we think about Fred Flintstone and Barney Rubble, on the one hand, it looks like Fred Flintstone's giving something to Barney or vice versa, but we know better from the other perspective that we have. We can say, no, it's just a cartoon. Is that a fair analogy, or am I still missing something there?
Well, I guess when Sawaki Roshi says you can't exchange with another, he's saying that ultimately you can't find an other separate from you to exchange with. There's just this one life. But yet this one life shows up in such a way that it looks like there are all these exchanges and, you know, all these things being bought and sold and exchanged. It looks that way. We don't ignore the appearance, the conventional appearance of it. We don't ignore the reality beyond conventional appearances. We don't hold on to either one. We just allow ourselves to experience this reality, which can be looked at as a dualistically structured reality, or could be looked at as a reality of emptiness and oneness. We don't cling to either idea. That's the problem is we usually cling one-sidedly to a particular idea about how our life is. This is a reality that we can't catch it or describe it in terms of an idea. All we can do is point. So is that helpful, Ken?
Yes, it's perfect. Beautiful. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I like, I'm an old fan of Flintstones too.
Very good. Yeah, one more comment here. No, and the fellow from England, it was his first time or first experience. And it's about, like, of course, it's Steve's teaching now, the two truths, but the conceptual versus the ultimate truth, the perceptual. And even though we're never outside of the experience, is this, a fair analogy that I kind of look at when we flip from the perceptual direct experience to the conceptual, the thoughts about it, maybe it doesn't block it, but I see the conceptual as like being static on a radio, and it interferes with our awareness of that perceptual experience. Does that seem fair? Or?
Well, it does if we're caught by it. If we're caught by the belief that reality corresponds to the conventional, conceptual, dualistic model, if we're one-sidedly caught by that, then we're overlooking the absolute experience. But the absolute and relative they're not separate realities. Right. It's one reality. It's just different ways of looking at it. And our practice is to live this reality without being caught by ideas of relative or ideas about absolute. Just to live, that's the problem is we get caught up in our ideas about it, even to be
Good.
caught up in ideas about absolute is to overlook the actual experience.
Okay, thank you, Noam.
Yeah, thank you, Vince.